So let's turn it over to Toby and Triin now.
Hi guys, that was amazing, gentlemen. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I feel a little bit, I mean, our story is slightly different, so there's a kind of symbiosis, I'm sure. I think the best way for what we've decided to do is to read through a script where we're going to ask each other a set of questions to kind of mirror some of our practice. And I guess, first of all, I should just ask you, Triin, to tell us, you know, why we're here and what we're doing.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Toby, for this introduction. And I'm sure that, yeah, we will not have any presentation, but be very open also for your questions. And really following this previous chat, it would be really great to see you thinking along with us and also think like how it might be useful from your perspective as teacher trainers, as maybe also you can take a bit of your college student perspective, but also definitely from working from within the school, because yeah, myself and Toby, we are both also teachers, but also I think on a journey to figure out what else can we do in this world. And from my own background, I have been involved in education for more than 10 years. And in this time, I have worked a bit in the Ministry of Education, actually over here in Estonia, where I'm right now greeting you from as well. And I've also been working in several NGOs trying to figure out really like what kind of civil action might be necessary as well to improve the education towards more self-directed learners, towards more holistic approach to learning and teaching. And actually, I think with some of these questions in mind also, we have met with Toby, and we have this technology which we call Clanbeat. And with this, I think we're trying to figure out that what might be the ways that technology can help us these days to also contribute to education, because I think all of us have quite realized that these days we are very much using technology in education, but maybe not always in a way that could be helpful or which is not manipulative towards us, either like using it overly or using it not in a way that really contributes to our learning and growth. So these are some of the questions that we have in mind, like how might actually we create this space for technology, or what might we require from a technology that could help us really develop learning where the students can really feel empowered, being themselves, discovering what they would like to learn, and also finding their co-learners and fellows on this journey, as this name of our technology, Clanbeat, also suggests that there are people around us. And we sort of need to find this also good rhythm of working together. And Toby, how about you? What do you add to this? And perhaps introduce yourself a bit more as well.
Yeah, so I'm Toby. I'm a secondary school teacher. I work in an international school in central London. We are an IB school. We have a very small group of students in our community. 200 kids maximum, and we are invested in well-being as a kind of philosophy, which brings us to loads of actions that we take. We have a well-being lead, we have a restorative practitioner in the building, we train cognitive coaching to all staff members. We build on that culture as best we can, and it's not enough. It doesn't do, you know, I think it's a bottomless pit in some respects for our resources. As a member of school leadership for 6 years, I've noticed that we can keep pouring money into that hole, trying to respond to the needs of our community. And it's something that we need to do to really nurture these kind of positions for our young people. So we turned, and I think COVID was part of that turning, to how we could augment those experiences in a digital way. How could we harness technology to support us? Seeing that our kids were using this stuff anyway, 3 or 4 hours a day, we knew we could be doing something better. But I must sort of preface all this with, you know, we are an alternative, progressive learning environment. So it's kind of easy for us to bring our parents on board, to bring our students with it. And that's where this kind of relationship began with Clanbeat. And that's where we find ourselves now. looking at ways to really promote meaningful and lasting narratives of well-being with young people in a world which I think is intensely challenging for them, by the way. You know, I sometimes think of the question is like, what is the least we can do? What are the maximum things that we can provide these young people so they can do it themselves, if that makes any sense? It's not because my colleagues wouldn't want to do everything, because they do, but I can't risk the burnout. I can't risk the kind of incessant demands on their time that actually really meaningful relational work requires, particularly in an inner city environment like ours. So, so that's where we started this conversation, and we should get into some nitty gritty, as we say. Should I go first a little bit with those questions that we had? I think it would be easy to say, and you know, ClanB is an app that sits on phones that teachers use. But for us, actually, it's not really about an app. It's a very well built app. It has lots of facilities and features that we really like. But I just remember this call I had with Triin the other day where I said, can I come and see how your school use it? Can I fly over again to Thailand and see you? And you said, how did you answer me?
I think it was something along the lines that you would just see the students in peaceful atmosphere, just open up their apps, have their nose a little bit in, looking at the app and typing up some things. So that I was thinking that maybe it's not really worth for Toby to come and just see that. But in the end, we found it something as meaningful as could be, actually.
But I guess the point being that, you know, you were saying that actually you use this system to check in with the kids, to help support them, to create a blended learning experience, but it's actually only 3 minutes of class time that they're on the app. The rest of the time, it's in the conversations, it's in the dialogue. Have I got that right?
Yes, that's absolutely right. So we really use it to trigger some of the answers or some of the ideation around different issues, or sometimes it could be really about these check-ins that we have as regular questions, but it's really like to have maybe a minimum input that could be meaningful, but at the same time taking that to actually kickstart some of the conversations that we could have later, or for me as a teacher to notice certain things that I would like to bring up in the classroom content and actually discuss with the students. And it really often is about really how they feel in the middle of their learning experiences. What are they learning? How are they learning? And also for me to spot, maybe if I'm doing, like, for example, a reflection exercise with them, I can get information about how they have observed and interpreted what we've done in the lesson. So it really is, like, for me as a teacher, a very informative tool to get ideas from them. And I believe also they have said themselves that this has been a good way for them also to kind of observe their own path, to look back sometimes what they have thought before. And so it's really like a little tool alongside the journey that can keep us a bit more informed, involved, and understanding more about each other, which otherwise maybe would not have happened because there is just not enough time to reach out to every single student that often in the classroom.
Yeah, and actually I think that you've kind of created the system to kind of respond to your curriculum needs, and as well we use it to co-create curriculum needs. I know that's something that you guys are doing. So much like any other social media system, it has a feed of content that the kids can share with each other. It's part of its design, but it's a very slow system. It's not like a fast Facebook, right? It's quite slow. It's not laboriously designed, but actually what we really wanted to nurture was this idea of spending time with it, not doing this sort of dopamine hit responding stuff that the kids are so used to with TikToks or whatever they are. But what we also discovered was, for a lot of the subject content that we wanted to respond to around SEL competency or really tricky, risky choice behaviors that we experience in secondary schools, that actually the kids were able to offer each other really solid, moderated content. Go to this place, look at this piece of advice, try this as a place. And actually, in a world that is changing so rapidly, two things occur to me. One is they're doing that stuff anyway outside of our school context, which can be not very safe, to be honest. And it worries me that they could share resources for things that they don't actually have much insight into. So we get a view on this, but it also means they're actually, I think, doing the magic, which is that I could stand in front of the whole of grade 9 and talk to them for an hour and they won't listen to me at all. But if I put 2 grade 11s up in front of them, it's like they're eating out of their hands, right? You know, so in this space, we found a kind of rhythm to what we need to do to kind of nurture that human experience. And I've got to be honest with you, when we started, a lot of our colleagues were quite scared because they were like, we have to let go of some of our teacher control in this way. And I was like, yeah, go on then. Just see what will happen. Because if the trust is there, and I think you guys were talking about this earlier, actually, that kind of narrative of trust is so important. And as soon as that's in place, things started to move. So I was going to ask you another question, and I noticed there's something in the chat we could respond to, Triin, but I was going to ask you, I'm very conscious of our time as well. You were part of the build for this product, actually, Triin. So, you know, what were the questions that drove you guys to build this application? Because clearly, Clanbeat are a money-making organisation. They're a company. And yet this is a pretty out there sort of approach. So where did it all start? Do you know? You do know, I know you know, you're a partner.
Right. So really from the beginning, like we wanted to build something that would be genuinely, truly useful. And we believe there are quite a lot of technologies, also including education technologies, that I think, yeah, still do the things that maybe are quite traditional. Or often we also know that there are commercial technologies also used in the school setting, for example, Facebook groups often, or at least in our country. But then we were thinking, yeah, like, could there be still a way for building a really, truly humane technology that could really serve the purpose of learning and development? And that very much includes all this well-being approach. And we still do believe that this is something that we would like to do, to think of ways how we can really encourage students to think for themselves, not just have things blinking in front of their eyes and getting their attention to things that don't really create that value. So as Toby mentioned, it is sort of a slow technology, and currently we are really seeing like whether this can withstand in the current whole environment. And especially, as you pointed out as well, Clanbeat is a business organization, however, with really this bigger mission of being able to help our users, may it be students, but also quite often these days adults, to also really open up their potential. And so I think we coined this little term here that we are the kind rebels in this field, that trying to figure out whether we can still compete with our big, more commercial competitors, but finding the ways on how we could kindly support our learners, and also finding this way for the teachers to actually see this tool as a real genuine support in what they would like to achieve, without the need to compromise the data or security or something like that. So that's what we do have in mind. And I think beyond that, when we create our technology, we really want to work with our users. So definitely you will not find us at any foreseeable point of time reaching a ready product, but it really is more like listening to what our users say so that we can continue building it together. And yeah, like seeing on where is that balance between this humane needs, which we have maybe deeper in us, but which doesn't like really get the space for being expressed as much in today's fast attention-seeking culture. So we are trying to see where we could be, and we have been so far very lucky to have some of the investors who believed in the same mission And also in the future, or actually what we are right now experimenting with, are the ideas of also being able to connect our learners regardless of also their locations, and seeing how this bigger learning could also take place together, because we believe that what is a great example here today, that technology can bring us together with also people we would normally in our physical life meet, but it gives us the opportunity to connect. And there's an intriguing word which we have started to use these days. It's called the nest. And Toby, perhaps you could go into that one a little bit, because you are one of our nest holders as well.
Yeah, I mean, and actually that might speak to your question, Corey, a little bit. I just wanted to rephrase that rebel alliance thing, the soft rebels. Like it's so important, I think, as educators to know that people are doing the sort of transformative work. And I think I've sat in schools through my teaching career and wondered how on earth we were going to move things, right? And so for me, things like ClanB are so important, that there's like some very progressive ideas that might actually work within my context, might not, but I just like to see that kind of forward-thinking approach to learning. And so, like, I think that's so important, and what a blessing it is to kind of be able to share our practice with you guys for those reasons. We built nests as a kind of antidote to this fast media stuff. So nests are kind of safe and social places where groups of people can bring together an idea and share content and discuss it and use it in a chat protocol way, but also in a sharing of resources way. So the app hosts nests. We started a few. We started one for teachers actually on healthy habits. We started another one we're using for teachers, which we're calling in a slightly tongue-in-cheek way, a mindlessness nest, because there's a lot of mindfulness going on in the UK teaching world. But we quite like the idea of mindlessness, actually instructing our colleagues to have 2 minutes a day where they just sit and do nothing. Like literally develop protocols where you can actually just have a bit of time to think. And the app does this terrifically well, because it flicks a notification onto your phone, a little ding says, right, wherever you are, you now just have to take a thought, even if you're with grade 8, just after recess. Like, have a moment to kind of ground yourself and get back in. Because I actually think we don't, you know, maybe this is a British thing as much as anything else, but a lot of school colleagues that I work with wear burnout as a badge of honor, actually, and it's not okay. And it's becoming really problematic in our communities to enroll teachers because they last 3 to 5 years and then they're dead. Not literally, I hasten to add, but they just can't function. And I think we're doing something fundamentally wrong, and it's frankly terrifying. And I don't want to envisage a culture in our faculties, and not least in mine, where that's the case. So this has to be transformative, and it actually has to be, as best we can, that kind of rebel alliance. What I would say is, if you think of it a bit like a gym, so we have all the tools within the gym that you might want to use, but you as an educator have to get inside the app and choose which ones would work best for the rhythm of your gym members. That's what we mean by co-creation, actually. So there is a chat function and there is task management and there are those things, but they may not work in the context of your school, the check-ins, whatever, the feeds. And it's explorative. And one of the things our kids have absolutely loved is to meet the real life coders who build this stuff online, you know, and we've had them come in on Zoom and talk to them, these kind of cool Estonian dudes with their laptops. And they are, you know, non-generic dudes, but they're there to kind of do the conversation that really matters to our kids. And yeah, I think it's been a really exciting journey for us. Mm-hmm. And it continues, sorry.
So I have all sorts of questions. I just want to barrel in. I don't know if you want to go there. I'm a slow typer, so I can't chat.
Yeah, go on. I mean, you could ask us, Peter, please.
Well, lots of questions, I guess. So one question I have is, do you gather data in terms of how this influences and affects students within these nests and how they do, or how they self-reflect on how their well-being is enhanced or affected by Clanbeat?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to go with that? Yeah.
You can go first. Mm-hmm.
No, the thing is, Peter, it's been a huge conversation in the kitchen for us, this, about how we collect data and what we do with it and what it means. And the engagement, but you appreciate for a lot of what digital apps do, we measure engagement as a I don't know, the more someone engages, the better it is. And actually, that's not always the truth. We want these wellbeing check-ins to actually evidence this kind of positivist psychology approach, that it's building something in the young person. I don't know whether you want to call it resilience or character or whatever. And those tools are really supported by the educator. So it's very contextual. I, as a teacher, will see my cohort and maybe be able to react to those kids that are clearly struggling, or just get a kind of litmus test on the kind of culture and tone of school life. But the detailed metrics for nests, my view on it, and we're still arguing about it actually, is that really let's just see where that goes within each context. We're very fresh with this. Triin, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I can definitely just say that like we are still like thinking really like what kind of data is needed, like for example, even by the teacher, like how would they want to know about their student engagement? And even like now with the nest holders, we have had like that each nest holder tells us like how they would like to measure the success of this experience, for example. So, but what we definitely can assure that the data is not shared with any other party. All individual data will not be shared with like anyone apart from the group head, with the prior consent of the group members, so that there is no kind of like weird ways of or suspicious ways of moving around with the data. And we are very, very high in the EU as well. Like all the data standards these days are, like for us as also as education technology, like very, very high. But definitely like we could measure like, I don't know, anonymous time of our users engaging with the app. But definitely like this will not be our key metric. And also we have this saying here in the team that our job is to educate or like make our app be relevant to our users, because they should, you know, have their like practices that support in their life, but we assume that at some point of their lives, we might need something of a tool to help, but the practices will continue. And that's maybe some of the examples also from the classroom. So something that Clanbeat provides are like regular well-being check-ins. And this is where I have also like some real practices from the users that even if they don't answer them on the app, they say that now they are stuck with these questions. They've got to think about their, like how they feel about the day. They will think a bit of their sleep. They will think in the evening as well, like whether they've had relationships which they have made them happy during the day, and also how they feel like at the end of the day. So we don't even need the app even to at some point, like quite soon, to remind them of these questions, but they actually start having them in their head. And that's, I think, the type of engagement as well, which we will very much desire. And then other than that, I think Clanbeat also can be taken as a tool to reflect on any of the questions that the students themselves might generate and take down notes or something like that, or which I, as a teacher, for example, can use in the lesson. May it be as simple as like, what are the 3 main takeaways for you in this lesson? And maybe something that made you confused, or that you want to have more explanation of, or what do you want to argue with? So there's just an easy way to take down such kind of notes and also share with each other. And these are the type of little practices in the lessons. And also, as Clanbeat is very cultural tool as well. So it very much depends on where a particular teacher is with her or his classroom. So that what kind of little practices could be helpful. And so we always say to the teacher that, like, you should not maybe think of big changes that you want to do with the help of this technology, but rather think of little meaningful steps, and maybe just one step, but it definitely something that is habitual. And if you know, if you can change like a little habit, you already really turn the big ship into a different ending point. So so these are the little things that we eventually work with, and habits and culture and that part. Yeah.
So Triin, you've answered another one of my questions, which is how it affects and interacts with the curriculum that's being taught in the classroom. And it sounds as if the principal means is to provide these different reflections for students, so that they're able to reflect on the lesson, reflect on their state of mind, reflect on potentially their relationships in the classroom, etc. So it sounds like a really highly reflective app, which encourages people to think about, like, well, how is this going? How is this working for me? Which is really kind of intriguing and very wonderful. It really sounds lovely.
Peter, can I speak to that just a tiny bit? Because I feel like we in the IB universe, reflections are we do them so often with kids. They kind of get reflected. we make a joke sometimes, sort of death by 1,000 reflections, like by the end of the semester one, they've had to reflect on everything. And I think it's really hard to do like heartfelt reflections in that landscape. So for us, like, the app has provided access to slightly different nuance, because it also blends outside of the school day. The kids take it home and they're not reflecting directly to the teacher. It's boundaried because they can choose, and there is the setting to let them see. But I've spoken to kids now who've actually got a transcript of their thoughts, their actions, their service and community work, which my university and guidance counsellor adores, because rather than just when they go and say, I am a reflective person, or I am adaptable, they've actually got this length of stories that they can share in interviews for colleges and so on, which is really kind of complemented some of the more traditional stuff that we should be doing in schools, actually. So I've really kind of felt what looked to me like that little thing you press when you go through customs to say whether you've enjoyed your experience, has actually started to have a real effect in a very gentle way into the broader story of our community. So it's it's really cool. Thank you.
And it's interesting how all this is evolving and building out without any, without the typical sort of, I'm not sure about the profitability and all those other sorts of things. It sounds as if this is really human development through a technological means. Really a human development. That's really the focus, which is quite remarkable. It sounds really extraordinary.
We have to hope that it can maintain itself. Sorry, but yeah.
Okay. So thank you. So we've got your website. Corey's got your website.
I get a notice.
I've been all over it already. I almost joined I'm thinking about joining. I need some. That was hilarious. The mindfulness that, of course, we hear that all the time here. Right. That's obviously gotten across the ocean. I don't know which way it started, but the idea of mindlessness was fantastic. I need that.
I see that we're going to be driven out of the breakout room very quickly, but I just wanted to say how happy I was to be part of this. I feel like I've had a private audience with 4 incredible educators. You guys are so articulate and so creative. I just love the interaction between you 4 too. It just seems very fortunate that the 4 of you were paired together to present, because I just see such such crossover interest and appreciation. So it's just, I'm just so happy that we've recorded this, because I'm really going to advocate people listening to this. You know, fortunately, people didn't come and hear it in real time, but we've got it now taped, and I really want other people to listen to this. You guys are incredible teachers. It's just so, I'm more optimistic than when we started. I feel that you guys really got some stuff going, and just really happy that I could be here to listen in to it. So thank you all very much.
That's terrific. Thank you so much. This has been really, really fun, and we'll be in touch. This sounds like wonderful work.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
Making this happen, Dawn and others. So.
Oh, you're welcome, Gwen. Thank you for saying that. Alex, can you stop the recording?